All right, tonight I'm going to be speaking about the implementation of the death penalty and the procedural concerns related with it. So the United States is only one of 4 industrialized nations in the world that still imposes the death penalty. As the state-sanctioned execution of a human being is a harsh remedy, it must be implemented, if at all, with the highest level of integrity. So since 1973, 144 exonerations have taken place. The average year, which is a display right here, of time served between conviction and exoneration is 12 years. So currently now, we don't know how many people are serving on death row that may be innocent. Says one of the procedural concerns is eyewitness identification. There are no written policies on how to conduct an eyewitness identification, and also that it is some of the most unreliable evidence that's presented. If the court decides to suppress a pretrial eyewitness identification, they can actually still appoint that person in a court trial. So along with eyewitness identification, there's also some juror confusion when it comes time to suppress the trial. One of the questions that they're asked of the jury is if the person that's being tried is poses a future dangerousness to society. However, they're not explained what future dangerousness actually means. And they're also not told that there is another possibility. It's not like the defendant's going to be out on the street. They will be in prison for life. So the next one is interrogations. During interrogations, there is no video or audio surveillance being taped. This leads to a lot of coerced or false accusations. So a suggestion for interrogations would be to implement this to avoid, because it can turn over in a post-conviction. The next slide is for the evidence. In contemplating the death penalty, evidence is not specifically assigned to one person to preserve the DNA. Even if the DNA would show that the defendant did not commit the crime, that's still not enough to get the DNA order. So it's very, very hard to access while no one's responsible for preserving the DNA, so it's almost impossible to get one. So a lot of the DNA, when they do receive that, actually it turns over some of the convictions. Like a judge can turn over the conviction due to a DNA sample. So, yeah, we're going into. So some of the badly implemented procedures leads to unfair application. Currently now, in Texas specifically, African Americans comprise 13% of the population, but comprise 43.8% of inmates on death row. So as of right now also, over half of the death row consists of African Americans. In August of 2001, the New Jersey Supreme Court actually made a statement that they are more willing to go after someone who has killed someone who is white opposed to other races. So one of the suggestions that I would have for an overhaul would be to go after every race, because one person isn't any more important than the next. All right. So the next one is the weak. So this can also be linked to people who have low IQs, who have documented mental illnesses. People with documented persistent and severe mental illnesses went to go obtain long-term care, but were denied, and they have been executed. So if they were denied the long-term care in order to rehabilitate whatever mental illness that they were dealing with, it's not enough for them not to be executed. Also, you only have to be 17 to be executed. That's the age that they will start implementing that. Let's see. People with documented and persistent severe mental illnesses were denied. They also have been executed. The U.S. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals has never found an inmate incompetent for execution. One of the suggestions that I would have is for the death row inmates to be provided regular mental and psychological evaluations. One of the statistics that's very alarming in the death penalty is how much it costs. A lot of people perceive it as being more cost effective to sentence someone to death rather than life imprisonment. As you can see here, for all of the expenses as far as trial and how much it is to actually keep someone on death row and sentence them, it accounts to $4.6 billion. And a lot of the issues with this is how much money it is, and a lot of people who are on death row right now are also poor. They aren't able to appoint proper representation, and their representation could be public defenders, and it showed that I believe 17% of the lawyers failed to file appeals, and then they also failed to produce briefs. So life imprisonment is only $1.5 million opposed to the $4.6 billion. That's to sentence someone to death. So I'm not sure if any of you have watched Making a Murderer. It's about a Stephen Avery. He was committed to, I believe he was in there for 18 years for murdering and raping, I believe her name was Teresa Halbach. So he pled innocent the whole time. He recanted, and he was coerced by police officers and law enforcement. And this is a little bit of his story.
Nobody tell me what to do. That feels good.
1 week after being released from prison, Stephen Avery is still trying to adjust to his new life as a mechanic.
Yeah, now they got time and belts instead of time and chains, and a little more difficult.
And as a free man.
I know, it just feels different. I can do what I want now.
For 18 years, Avery was limited in everything he did after being convicted for a crime he didn't commit. Now state lawmakers want answers as to why this happened to him.
We need to take a look at the procedure, the process, the way decisions were made 18 and 19 years ago.
To make up for those 18 years, some lawmakers believe Avery should receive nearly $500,000 in compensation. Avery says no amount of money can make up for losing everything.
They ain't got enough to make up for that. Kids, my family, my wife. Now she's divorced, I'm divorced, and she's remarried, so I'll never get that back at all.
All he can do is start over and try to be the man he once was.
Get back to what I used to be, greasy man.
So in conclusion, as you can see from Stephen Avery, the detrimental impact that being wrongly convicted can have on a person. So it takes a lot of time to readjust and can take people years to readjust to their regular lives. Clearly the United States has been unable to implement the death penalty with the highest level of integrity, and therefore this country should abolish the death penalty.